Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill, along with Tim Donner, Andrew Moran, Dave Patterson, Joe Schaefer. This is the Conservative Five, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. On today's episode, buzzing on Biden and Trump, the Conservative Five discusses the unnecessary deaths of 3 U.S. soldiers in the Iran proxy militia drone attack. We'll also dig into Last Men Standing and Never Trump or Lost Boys and pivot to what's on everybody's mind, cognitive decline, 2024 buzzwords. And we are back at it again in Just for Fun, Volume 45. All this and more coming up in this edition of the Conservative Five. We were shocked to hear that 3 U.S. soldiers were killed in an Iran-backed militia drone strike on an American military outpost on the Jordanian border with Syria. It was early morning on the 28th, Iraq time, when sound asleep in quarters, 3 American soldiers were violently killed, just following orders and causing no harm on an anti-Islamic State mission. Liberty Nation has continually and strongly reported that this could possibly happen. Just one missile or drone that could get through air defense. That's where our panelist, military affairs correspondent Dave Patterson, has been sounding the alarm about persistent attacks on the U.S. military base and outposts under Joe Biden. He's here to tell us what happened.
Well, Sarah, I think you're right on 2 accounts. First of all, after 158 attacks on U.S. service members in Syria and Iraq, it was just a matter of time before there was 159th that would kill Americans. That happened when an Iran-furnished drone used by the Islamic resistance in Iraq now, we find, made it through the Jordanian outpost air defense and killed, as you pointed out, 3 American patriots. Second, it's getting a little tiresome listening to the Biden talking heads, keep up with this mantra that it's a priority to keep U.S. personnel deployed in the region safe. Well, they failed miserably, and there are 3 flag-draped coffins to prove that. It's been said over and over, and you alluded to this, U.S. defense of our troops has to be effective 100% of the time, destroying 100% of the enemy attacks. The enemy only has to be successful once. It's time Biden decides to ensure that there is no enemy to be successful. It's time to make Iran, feel the pain of their behavior. Perhaps destroying the Iran shipbuilding and offshore industries complex in Bandar Abbas might be a good start.
Well, from the military perspective, I'm going to pivot over to Joe and see if he can give us an idea of if American people are agreeing so much with Dave or maybe with the Biden administration. Joe?
Well, it's clear the American people do not want to get involved in a war with Iran. Polling has shown that in recent years. Nothing has changed. In fact, with the calamity at the U.S. southern border, more than ever, the American people are not worrying about overseas friction. We've got enough problems here at home. The major concern I have is Joe Biden presented an aura of weakness abroad while still being committed abroad, put himself in this situation. And, he's running for re-election. He's got nothing to campaign on except for anti-Donald Trump. He's got to have something else. This could be something else. He had the coronavirus in 2020. We all thought, there's been a lot of speculation that he's going to be looking for some kind of distraction from his own very poor domestic record. This could be just what he wants, which of course is not what the American people wants. So it's him being weak in the first place, setting up a situation where now we can have an enormous distraction, get America involved in a war that the American people do not want. So his weakness leads to war, and the American people don't want to have anything to do with this, but it might be perfect for his campaign, which is terrifying to think about if you really if you consider the consequences of that.
Well, Tim, it seems to me there's a whole, bunch of rhetoric on both sides of the aisle, and I might be wrong, and it might just be the conservative, the Republican side. But Biden's national security team is kind of not pulling it up. They're not doing what they need to do. They are just sitting back and kind of letting things happen. And that might be something that is my observation. And I'm not in the Beltway, but that seems to be a bipartisan kind of, complaint. How do you see that?
Well, of all the laughable claims that Joe Biden and his administration have made about this border, the most laughable was when Joe Biden said the other day that he's doing all he can. And everybody knows that to be a complete lie, that he could fix the problem if he chose to, but he chooses not to. He tries to say it's a matter of funding. It isn't a matter of funding, it's a matter of policy. And in terms of the conflict in the Middle East, the administration keeps saying that they're not responding because they don't want a broader war and they don't want a war with Iran. Agreed. That's what the American people say. But what they get 180 degrees wrong is that by showing weakness and an ability to, and a predilection to just essentially ignore over 160 attacks on U.S. bases in the Middle East, he's actually promoting the likelihood of war. You don't avoid war through weakness. You avoid it through strength. Ronald Reagan practically eviscerated the Iranian Navy during his administration, and we didn't hear anything from Iran for a long time. Donald Trump went in and killed Soleimani and Iran after one strike, just so they could show they're responding. They were put back in their box until Joe Biden came around, and his weakness started by saying he was basically desperate for another deal with Iran, the kind that Obama had made and that Trump canceled. And so what does he get for giving Iran everything they want? He gets them to start bombing American bases. This is quite a policy, and it's one of several that's a killer for Joe Biden in this election season.
If we ignore this and there is escalation in the Middle East, what is that going to cause us financially? I mean, besides loss of lives, and I know that that's our top priority, but financially, is that going to be devastating to us or them, Andrew?
Yeah, I'll get to that. But just one moment though. Yeah, it's funny. The other day I was reading a memo from Donald Rumsfeld that he wrote in the 1980s, and he was talking about the very same thing that Sarah mentioned, that perhaps the U.S. shouldn't be meddling so much in the Middle East because the U.S. intelligence agencies and the U.S. government doesn't really understand the politics that occurs in that region. Now, economically, the main thing, of course, if there's a wider conflict in the region, the main consequence would be higher oil prices. And this is one of the main reasons why perhaps Joe Biden is so reluctant to even blame Iran for everything that's been going on lately, because it would potentially disrupt output and supply in the region, result in sanctions. Because you look at some of the numbers, Iran production and supplying a lot of these countries in the area, it's returned to 2018 levels. So you remove that one area from the global energy markets, you're going to have higher oil prices. So far this year alone, oil prices have risen about 10%. And this is a response to two things: the escalation of the potential escalation with Iran and what's been going on in the Red Sea. In the Red Sea, it's not so much production, it's more the fact that there could be transportation disruptions and delays in both energy products and consumer goods. So Biden is probably so hesitant of trying to escalate this thing or blame Iran for anything, because then that would lead to higher inflationary effects, which he doesn't want heading into his reelection campaign, of course.
I mean, he's just letting the fox in the henhouse. He's just letting them in and taking little bits and pieces, and that seems to me that it would make them more confident that they can take on, the U.S. government.
I mean, that is so transparent now. Everybody can see it. Everybody can see Biden's weakness. The whole world can see Biden's weakness. They can see the fact that he's a coward because he thinks that by appeasing Iran with his Neville Chamberlain strategy, that he's going to avoid a war. But you know what? Iran wants a war with the U.S. a lot less than the U.S. would have any desire to go to war with Iran. Iran is desperate to avoid a direct conflict with the United States. And you have to take that into account when you punish them for attacking U.S. bases and killing U.S. servicemen. Would you agree with that, Dave?
I think that you're right about Iran's reluctance to engage us militarily, but Iran was reluctant in 1988 to do the same thing, but yet their behavior was laying mines in the Persian Gulf and eventually damaging one of the U.S. Navy ships. And the consequence of that was, as you pointed out, we sank half their Navy and they became quiet. In any conflict, you always have to remember that as whatever your desires are regarding an enemy, they have a vote. And so far, Iran has voted 160 or more times. So whether the administration wants to admit that there's an escalation of the conflict, there is an escalation of the conflict, and it was brought to us by the enemy.
I know you guys can go for hours and hours and hours on this subject, but we're going to have to wrap it up. So, from the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan to the loss of more American lives, the hands of our enemies, some might think this isn't a big priority for this administration. Thanks for watching. Neither lawsuits, FBI inquiries, jailing of friends and allies, nor the January 6th incident seems to be able to quell the momentum of former President Donald Trump. Even a smattering of primary opponents have stepped down and then stepped up to endorse number 45 to be 47. But where does this leave the merry band of Republican never-Trumpers? So who's feeling pressure? Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and Senator John Thune are just two such folks who didn't make sure that Trump was out for the count before publicly skewering the guy. Well, Liberty Nation has a senior political analyst. He's also an encyclopedia of facts and details, and he's joined us today to discuss Mr. Tim Dotner.
Well, I'll tell you what, the never-Trumpers are more desperate than ever because they were pretty successful in forming a sort of never-Trump alliance of strange bedfellows in 2016. That would be disaffected Republicans and those with full-on, with like an emergency case of Trump derangement syndrome. People like Bill Kristol, who basically trashed everything that he ever promoted for the entirety of his adult life in order to support Joe Biden against Donald Trump because he just hates Donald Trump with a passion. And there's so many people like that. But these people now, they're forming around Nikki Haley, and Nikki has done a good job of attracting them and attracting Democrats who want to come over and vote against Trump. But in the end, it's not going to amount to much because the never-Trumpers in 2020 were able to make the case that Trump had weakened the country, that Trump was a danger to the republic, and they managed to make that case successfully enough. This time, they can't make that case. They can try to say Trump will be a dictator. They've been saying that, but they're not really showing up in significant numbers in the primaries. I mean, Trump won a record victory in Iowa. Nobody wins an open primary by 30 points. And he won a decisive victory in New Hampshire. So this Republican race is going to be over soon. And as far as old cocaine Mitch McConnell, he's going to have to make his peace if Trump is elected. He hates Trump with every fiber of his being. He found January 6th to be intolerable. He basically, a lot of people think he was happy to have Biden win and to lose the Senate just to get even with Trump.
Joe, let's just imagine that Trump does win the nod and he does win the general. And are we going to see a repeat of what happened in 2017? Where, he just couldn't do anything because there were you had a full majority in both houses in the White House, and yet he was fought with his own party. So is that going to happen again, or are we going to see a resurgence of maybe, hey, maybe he could work this out this time with this GOP party?
Now, if Mitch McConnell is still running the United States Senate Republican side of the aisle, it's going to happen again. Mitch McConnell, to go back to what Tim said, Mitch McConnell doesn't just hate Donald Trump. He hates what Donald Trump stands for. He hates what Donald Trump represents. The America First movement, MAGA, whatever, breaking up the swamp. Mitch McConnell is about serving the swamp. Him and his cronies are doing quite well. It's amazing how wealthy you get once you become an elected official in Washington, D.C. So, Mitch McConnell's not on the Donald Trump team. Mitch McConnell's not on the America First team. It's a uniparty in action. These people are much more closely aligned to Joe Biden than they are with Trump supporters.
It's become, it may be as populated as it ever was, maybe even overpopulated, but it's not getting much attention this year because Trump is leading the popular vote. This is a huge difference from 2016 and 2020. In the course of those two elections, Donald Trump never once held a lead in the popular vote by any account. And certainly in the final results, he lost the popular vote twice. Well, this time he's ahead in the popular vote. And I'll tell you something, if he continues to be ahead in the popular vote, he will certainly win the Electoral College, because the most recent poll released of battleground states, which are the states that will decide the election, Trump is ahead in every single battleground state, and most of them are outside the margin of error. We're talking Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Georgia, and North Carolina. Trump is ahead in those states, which will decide the election by an average of 6 points. That's a lot to overcome, especially for a president who doesn't really have the advantage of being able to do anything about his major liability, which is his age and his feeble nature. He can't do anything about it. It can only get worse. So
Right, he can't change his policy on that.
no policy on age.
No policy on that. No amount of plastic surgery. All right, Andrew, you're chomping at the bit. Talk to me.
Well, I think the main thing we're missing out of this entire conversation is that how could Donald Trump even work with Mitch McConnell? He's one step short of, standing on a street corner wearing a paper bag with drool coming to his house, mumbling about Russian aggression. So how could he even work with that? But I would echo what Joe Schaefer said, the fact that Trump would be better off trying to oust him from his Senate leadership position. One thing I'm concerned about, though, is that, as Tim alluded to, Trump is feeble. If Mitch McConnell were to start glowing all this praise on Donald Trump may just cave to what Mitch McConnell says, because now McConnell's saying, "Oh, you're so great, you're such a wonderful president." Who knows if he'll do that? But anyway, that's the fear that there is. But at the same time, I don't know if anybody watched his speech during the New Hampshire primary, and he said something that really stood out. He said,
"But I don't get too angry; I get even."
And that's true. So hopefully he does what Mr. Schaefer recommends, and he tries to find different America First MAGA Republicans to lead the party moving forward.
Hey, I might get blowback on this, but I'm going to throw it out there. Why can't the Republican Party get behind who the people want? Why are they trying to say they know what's better? And why do the Democrats do so much of a better job at just holding their nose and everybody getting in line and pushing people through with momentum? Why can't the Republicans do that?
I can name that tune in one note. Control. They cannot control Donald Trump the way they control Mitt Romney, John McCain, George W. Bush, and on the other side, Bill Clinton, Bob Dole, whoever you want to talk about. Trump will not be controlled by any sort of party hierarchy, and that's the root of the problem.
But the interesting thing is that progressives will be controlled by the Democratic establishment. They've proven that. They would rather have power, even if it goes against their own best interests, that the perceived power, than to have a Republican win. Whereas Trump supporters have principle. They will not blindly go behind Mitch McConnell and Ronna McDaniel. Democrats, they told that line. They said, Bernie, Bernie, Bernie. Okay, we'll all vote for Biden now. And they're going to do it again. So there is party discipline there. And I really have to point it right in the faces of the progressives. These people really have principles when it comes down to it, because so far it's been sorely lacking.
I think
I think they have actually, for the first time, demonstrated the opposite of what you've said, because usually you're right. But when it comes to the Palestinian cause,
yes,
I don't
that's
see
a hot
backing
mess.
up.
That's a whole different subject.
That is not something where they show any signs of being willing to toe the Democratic Party line. Hell, they're holding demonstrations calling Biden Genocide Joe.
it's a fraction of the progressive
Yes.
Democrat establishment, that's a very huge thing for 2024 election.
It
We
sure
talked
is.
about, was it Joe or Tim? You guys mentioned the control. The party has control. They don't have control of Trump. And somebody mentioned an administration that I know Dave Patterson worked under. And I just kind of wanted to see if he had something to say about that.
Well, I think that there are a couple of things that ring true. And when we were discussing the various personalities of the two political parties, I think that you always have to remember that when there's a knife fight, the Democrats will go to a knife fight with guns. The Republicans will go to lunch. And
Not with Trump.
but we started this conversation on discussing the Never Trumpers. And I think it's important to realize that there's a segment of the Never Trumpers who were in the Bush administration, W.
Mm-hmm.
And they were highly incensed that the Trump campaign and later the Trump administration were not interested in bringing them on as in the capacity to which they believed they should be used to. And so they immediately turned on him. And during his campaign, there was this letter that 50 or 60 former Bush administration people signed. I mean, they signed their death warrant effectively for the Trump administration. But
they were sure he wasn't going to win.
Yeah, they were so sure. Yeah. But the fact is that this was the core of the Never Trumpers. And what they have found, I think, is and on the flip side, what Trump, I believe, you're going to see more of. I have a lot of people who disagree with this, but nonetheless, I think so. When you realize that former President Trump is what I call a transactional pragmatist. He's all about the transaction, and he does what works. That's what he's all about. And so if he believes that he needs to change a certain attitude because it's not working to get what he wants, then I think he will. And it won't be dramatic, don't get me wrong. I mean, but it will be a subtle change. I think you saw that in New Hampshire. We talked about that before, in which he showed some, conciliatory bent toward the other candidates. I wouldn't bet my life on this, but I do see this as a trend and a good trend too. Now he's never going to be best pals with Mitch McConnell. I mean, but at the same time, we have to realize Mitch McConnell is the minority leader, and he's got a lot of savvy and moxie and and a lot of people line up behind him, and you're not just going to disrespect him and immediately throw him out because okay, who's next, and are they going to be any better?
These people are not on the same team. Donald Trump supporters and Mitch McConnell Republicans are not part of the same party. Maybe they are in name, but it is in name only. They are two starkly divided camps, and they are opposed to each other. And that's the reality right now.
All right, guys, I know we can talk about this for hours and hours, and it'd be kind of fun and maybe over drinks next time, but the 2024 election cycle is in full swing. All sides pounding away. And so far, no one has really been disappointed. Well, except when there were Trumpers who keep putting up additional obstacles on the track. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, panel. Americans are almost reflexively cringing when President Joe Biden makes a public appearance. For decades, his mental decline and frail condition has increasingly worsened right before our eyes, from shaking hands with invisible friends, getting lost on the South Lawn, heck, even tripping over obvious stage props like sandbags. Folks are worried. Democrats, never Trumpers, big box media are turning the catchphrase of cognitive decline around on Donald Trump. Well, God save the Queen. Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump are not on the same playing field here. Andrew, our vault of weird facts, is here to explain the phenomena.
Well, the beer brewed here is used to make the brew beer here is Definer. Ooh, Earth Rider. Thanks for the Great Lakes. So if you're not someone who's a biographer, if you're not someone who's a biographer of Biden's amazing wit and intellect, this was him speaking at recently at a brewery. So as everyone knows, Biden is not exactly a spring chicken, and it shows every single time he makes a public appearance, whether it's scripted or unscripted. Instead of admitting this, the media is now adopting a new tactic of trying to claim Trump's cognition is on the decline. So maybe people watch this or not. During a recent speech, Trump, he was talking about how Nikki Haley didn't provide him enough security on January 6th, although he was talking about Nancy Pelosi. The media went apoplectic about this. Joe Scarborough of MSNBC called this disturbing. Now, it's absolutely absurd to me how they this the strategy, because yes, was it a bad look for Trump? Absolutely. But I think the ratio is for every Trump blunder, there's 25 of them for Biden. Just in January alone. This is a list of what he's done. He wore a construction hat backward. He called Tesla Tulsa. He took a picture with a congresswoman, although she wasn't even at an event. And then, of course, on his record, he's made so many incorrect assertions. And that's just a tip of the iceberg. So his cognitive decline is so apparent. And Trump, give him benefit of the doubt, he's had a trial. He's campaigning. He's holding rally. He's doing all these things, and he never sleeps. So I think, just considering the state of things, given the benefit of the doubt, if he substitutes Nikki Haley for Nancy Pelosi, and considering their politics, they're pretty much the same anyway.
Well, do you think the misstep, Joe, was as disturbing as Joe Scarborough thought it was? I mean, he literally looked like he was going to cry.
I don't think Joe Scarborough was relevant in 2016. Trump made him relevant by responding to him. If he would just ignore him now, no one would even be paying, a bit of attention to Joe Scarborough. It's amazing how some of these zombie journalists, if you call them that, are still around. Lawrence O'Donnell still has a talk show at MSNBC. I haven't thought about that guy in years. And that's sort of the way you think about Joe Scarborough. You don't think about him at all, but he pops up every now and then. For them to pursue this tack against Donald Trump, everybody knows Donald Trump is a genetic freak of nature. He's just a ball of energy. The guy eats Kentucky Fried Chicken and McDonald's, and he's got more energy than like most 25-year-olds. There's some kind of genetic freak of nature going on here. He's a dynamo. Why would they want to go down this road, especially with what they have with Biden? The smart thing is not to talk about it at all and bring up anything else. For them to present this as a defense of Biden is crazy. This is to me, one of Trump's core strengths is just the dynamic ball of energy that he is. So this is just helping him to the extent that anyone's paying attention to Joe Scarborough, which, like I said, I don't think anybody is.
Yeah, you go
You
on
know, one
Truth
of the,
Social. You see Trump. He's on Truth Social at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, railing against Democrats and Nancy Pelosi and the media and all these people. It's just astounding. I watched his clip when he was, I think it was in the 1980s. He was on Dave Letterman, and he was saying he's not someone who needs a lot of sleep. This guy is nearly 80, and he's still not sleeping much. I wish I had his energy. I'm 36, and
he's a freak of nature.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, he really is. And the Democrats are making exactly the same mistake they made with Bidenomics. By trying to attach a clever moniker to the issue, they made things worse because it pointed more attention at inflation and rising prices and gas prices and grocery prices and energy bills. And this time they're trying to say that, well, it's not just Biden. Donald Trump shows his age too. All that does is make Biden look even worse because, this is who are you going to believe? You or your lying eyes? Everybody can see that Joe Biden is increasingly incapable of really fulfilling, if not the responsibilities of the position, at least the confidence of the American people. And with I just listened to a Democratic pollster on another podcast, and he was talking about all these clever moves that Biden can make to win back all the Black and Hispanic and young voters that he's lost since 2020. And this strategy, that strategy, all I keep thinking is, you know what? To sell something, you got to have the product. And no matter what they do with Joe Biden, you can put a bonnet on a warthog, but it's still a warthog.
The media, the big box media is fact checking Donald Trump in real time. Like anytime he gives a speech, they're fact checking it. And you don't see anybody doing that. They protect Joe Biden from his own inabilities. And I don't see how that is even not called on the carpet. I don't get it.
They're just scouring every single Trump speech with a fine-tooth comb, looking for some kind of a misstep, some kind of a misstatement, so that they can claim, look, Donald Trump is just as demented as Joe Biden. That's their goal. Good luck with it.
I mean, you have to realize, we're in tough economic times under, the Biden administration. And the excuse that the major political fact checkers give is that, their budgets just don't allow for the number of staff that it would take to fact check Biden's speeches, after deciphering them, of course, Andrew. Biden uses this word creatively. But the truth is that most of the employment increase is still due to recovering jobs lost under the coronavirus pandemic. That 250,000, not quite. It was about half of that. So give credit where credit is due. PolitiFact did actually take a look at this and found that the Pinocchio noses were for everyone to see.
But look at Snopes. Look at Snopes recently with that picture of Joe Biden wearing the construction helmet backward. They initially said that it was true. He did wear it backward. But then they wrote an entire article claiming it was actually false, that what you saw with your own eyes wasn't accurate, because apparently construction workers do wear their construction helmets backward for whatever reason. I mean, there's a construction project across from my house, and I see construction workers there all the time, and they're wearing the construction helmet correctly. So these
but that's just in Canada. That's just in Canada.
Yeah, Canada's weird.
In the United States, we wear it backwards, Andrew. Didn't you know that? Come on.
He's a
trendsetter. He shows up
trendsetter.
with his suit jacket on backward, and then they're going to have to come up with something on that one.
Let's say one nice thing about Biden, because it's like my parents used to say when I complained about someone. Now, say something nice about him. Okay. You got to admit, the guy is probably the best dressed president we've had. He's got an awesome tie collection that I would love to have. That's it.
I guess I sort of noticed
I
that.
don't even like that. I don't even know. I don't even think
I
that's
do.
the case.
He has. I'd like to know who picks his ties.
Well,
Probably Jill.
Wonder how
Probably
tight they
Dr.
are when Jill puts them on there.
Probably Dr. Jill.
I think Dave makes an important point, though. It's, we can talk about his cognitive decline and all, but if America was cooking, the economy was doing well, and we were all thriving, no one would mind. He'd be like a more geriatric Dwight Eisenhower, or the idea of what Eisenhower was as a president. But it is his absolutely disastrous policies, what he's doing to this country, that is going to hurt him a lot more than even the most ridiculous and inane verbal mistakes that he makes on a regular basis. When it comes down to it, is this guy's got a record now. He didn't have it in 2020. We've got a record of what it is like under Joe Biden, and that to me is a million times more damaging than all of the gaffes, which of course don't help him at all either.
Well, if Andrew's tally is on the mark, and he is a famous numbers kind of guy, it seems Mr. Biden has racked up more alarming antics than Mr. Trump. We'll let you make that call. Thanks, panel. Thanks for watching. Back by popular demand, it's just for fun. This week, we're highlighting the trivia stylings of Liberty Nation's own Kirsten Brooker. We will all have multiple choice answers from which to choose. Big Tim Donner is getting the goop out of his eyes.
He's still got these.
Joe's frozen. Andrew's weird. All right, we're ready to go.
Okay. Ready.
Here we
go.
The first question. The winner of Taiwan's presidential election, Lai Ching-te, belongs to which political party? The Democratic Progressives? The Kuomintang Party? Taiwan People's Party?
Democratic Progressive.
Who gets to answer?
Say it!
Anybody?
Democratic Progressive.
Democratic Progressives.
Okay.
Which
yes,
is not what the guy is, but anyway, that's his title. Yeah.
Well, I will say on foreign policy that we need true international pressure.
Ah, here we go again.
I gotta say,
All right. Here we
Andrew
go.
has Biden completely nailed.
We are not encouraging this.
Well, Andrew's also crazy, so maybe that's a close.
That's why he's got him nailed.
We are not encouraging this.
Okay, here we go. The Supreme Court will hear a case, City of Grants Pass versus Johnson, later this year to decide whether it is cruel and unusual punishment to enforce laws in California that regulate A, the number of migrants permitted to enter, the enforcement of laws against camping on public property, that would be B, and C, the amount of money allotted to the state for government assistance.
I'm sorry, this is Supreme Court? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, give me a second. I gotta call Scott. I'm gonna call Scott Cosenza.
Yeah, that's it.
Give me 1 second. Hello, Scott. What's the answer? Did you hear that? Oh, it's E. E. What's
There's no
E?
E.
Is E on there? Scott.
I'm
Scott,
gonna say B.
This is for fun, Andrew, not comedy. Come on, straighten up. The answer's B, public camping. I think.
You got 3 Bs.
It is. It is.
All right.
Ding, 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 ding.
Follow Dave on that one.
For all you people following at home, you need to go to, libertynation.com and click on the trivia. But we're going to keep doing this. So anyway. Yes. Here's the next question. A burger joint, Zombie Burger, in Iowa recently added a list of menu items named after A, U.S. senators, B, presidential candidates, or C, Supreme Court judges.
Presidential
B.
candidates.
Yeah, B.
B.
I'd
Yes,
say B.
presidential candidates.
Yes! I got it. I'm on the board, baby.
The answer is yes.
I'm 3 for 3. 3 for 3. 3 for 3. That's
Alrighty.
100. That's 100% for those of you paying attention.
Yeah, following along, Tim Donner is the vault of all sorts of random information, and he is probably going to kick everybody's butt on this.
Random and useless information.
Don't sell yourself short.
Well, we all have
I wanna do
useless
that.
information. But
I want to do that Chevy Chase doing Gerald Ford at the debate. I was specifically told there'd be no math there.
It was my understanding that there would be no math.
They used to be so great with those imitations back then.
That's so funny. Okay.
here's an interesting one, and this was a story written by Lisa Kelly Donner, our editor-in-chief. I don't think Tim's going to be allowed to answer this because he sat there and watched it with her. The winner of this year's Miss America contest is a U.S. Air Force Academy graduate and is working towards a master's degree in public policy at Harvard. She had previously been crowned Miss A, Colorado, B, Connecticut, or C, Kansas.
I know the answer, but I'm not going to give it.
Oh, aren't you sweet?
Colorado.
Connecticut.
Yeah, Connecticut. Yeah. I remember her tweeting that article. Yeah, I think it's.
No, it's Colorado.
Colorado.
Oh,
Rocky
Dave, you
Mountain
screwed me on
High.
that one. I was piggybacking off of
I
you.
know. I kind of knew that. I was tired of carrying you.
The answer is John Denver.
Oh, I miss him.
I do too.
Okay, Sarah, give me an economics one. Give me an economics
No math. No math.
story. Come on.
What billionaire is raising cattle in Hawaii with a well-fed diet of beer and macadamia nuts? A, Donald Trump, B, Oprah Winfrey, or C, Mark Zuckerberg?
C. Mark Zuckerberg.
Yep, that was a tale of two billionaire farmers by, I believe, our illustrious John
Good.
Clark.
John Clark, yeah.
Who else? Isn't anybody else going to answer?
C.
No, I think C is right.
I'm going to say that the answer is Donald Trump because I have a wonderful farming hand and no one can touch it, and all you people are just embarrassed about how great farming I am.
I'm huge at farming. Huge.
Huge! I got a bigly resort. All right. That would be Mark Zuckerberg.
Uh-huh.
5 for 5,
right.
just saying.
Here we go. Timmy is keeping count of his own wins and
5 for 5.
thank
I can't.
goodness.
I have enough trouble with my own life. Don't ask me to keep track of other people. It's,
Due to slowing demand and accelerated maintenance costs, Hertz, a car rental company, announced it will sell off 20,000 of these.
Electric vehicles.
electric vehicles.
Don't answer
Hey,
if you wrote an
electric
article.
vehicle.
That was my article, man.
Don't answer if you wrote an article about it.
That'd be a
Look at how
little,
you guys getting the right
it'd be a
answer.
little
on that, except for
embarrassing if
doesn't
Andrew
count.
got that wrong.
Baby, don't hurts me. Don't hurts me. No mo.
That was a good headline. Very good headline.
You gotta roll.
You know, if you were in reach of my arm, Andrew. Anyway,
Anyway, if you're gonna do the Hertz thing, you gotta roll Avis in somewhere into that little ditty you did.
In your Avis. There you go. How about that one? That's guy just.
Well, they're Avis. They try harder. Remember that?
as part of their campaign strategy, the Biden administration is scheduling off-the-record meetings with the top political reporters and editors to ensure that they are A, demonizing Donald Trump,
A.
B, reporting fairly and honestly, C, not supporting Republican affairs.
Gotta be A.
A. It's A. It's A.
Say,
It's too easy.
Yeah. You know, it's right. I went to Kristen's article. I mean, her trivia this morning, and I was looking at it, and I do that.
So I need to point out to Andrew, a fellow baseball aficionado, and Joe, who is also a Reds fan, while Andrew's a Red Sox fan, that I'm batting 1,000. I just, just want
Tim's winning. I mean, the banner has got to
It's
say,
not like I'm bragging or
Tim's
anything.
winning. Mr. Donner blows everybody out of the what do they call that? The bullpen?
Tim is Barry Bonds. And then with those biceps of his, he's taking steroids.
Barry Bonds says that's too much steroids.
All
Yeah,
right.
I've used it in legal. I took it in. Okay, fair enough. I took a performance-enhancing drug before the.
I don't suppose we want to
Before the
go into the
recording
whole
today.
Pete Rose should
Yeah,
be in the
all
Hall
right.
of Fame. Just saying.
Stay on target.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Hunter Biden's latest money-making endeavor is, and is not selling cocaine, but it is A, a social media influencer, B, auctioning personal items,
Ew, gross.
or C, selling his paintings.
Nope.
I saw that tape.
That's
Ooh,
not
I
Gotta
mean,
be
it's just
C.
ooh.
Gotta be C. Gotta be the.
That's not
I mean,
new.
yeah, he's selling his paintings. I mean, my gosh.
I will not
Yep.
answer it because I know the answer was on trivia this morning again from the great Kristen Booker. So I will
It's
not
Kirsten.
be quiet. Kirsten, excuse me.
Everybody.
Okay, if she's so great,
Poor,
Andrew, get her name right. Anyway.
poor Kirsten.
Poor Kirsten. All right, here's going to be our last one.
Hey, what was the answer?
Selling his
That's a good one.
paintings.
But I thought it was new. Well, I don't know.
Aren't you guys listening to Tim Donner? Because he's getting them all right. So, I mean,
So, yeah.
I'm not going first this time.
okay. New York Attorney General Letitia James, along with 20 more state attorneys general, asked that the production of blank
Hey, baby.
stop at Lake City plant. A, firearms. B, war weapons. C, ammunition.
Shoot. Hold on. Let me go to libertynation.com quickly. I know the answer. Give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a
Hey, no
second.
cheating.
Hold on. Hold on.
Speaking of
Oh,
Barry
ammunition.
Bonds, you are eliminated because you cheat. That's it. Andrew's out. Turn his camera
Andrew,
off.
you just lost it. You got to
Turn
the
his
party,
camera
buddy.
off.
You are done. Oops.
I'm going to
Can you answer that
say,
one?
Who's got an answer?
I'm going to try ammo.
Yeah, I'm going with
Yeah, it's
ammo.
ammunition.
Yeah, Sam.
It is
Tim Donner.
ammunition.
Can't stump Tim Donner.
Are you
You
guys
know,
want
it's
to
like
keep
that-
going, or
No.
should we wrap this?
You know, I feel like Donald Trump here. Remember when he said, I'm going to be winning so much, you're going to be sick of it, and you're going to beg me to please, Mr. President, stop winning. Well, you're going to have to beg me to stop winning here. I mean, you just got to stump me.
Make America
Sarah.
great again.
What's your favorite color?
You know, I'm gonna spend the
Green.
next
Wrong.
coming up with something to stump Mr. Donner.
What's that line about? What is it? It's just as bright as the dawn. The night is bright
It
as
is,
dawn.
it's darkest before the
The
dawn.
darkest before the dawner. The darkest before the Tim Donner.
Darkest before the
Oh.
Donner. All right, I got
Boy,
one
could
more.
that
This
be
is
that could
this
be
is the last
interpreted
one,
so
you
many
weirdos.
ways. Go ahead.
Okay, is this the tiebreaker?
Okay, sure,
you
Dave.
actually-
If you
Dave, you
want it to
actually
be,
have to
we'll
talk
make it.
and
I
participate
want this to be the
be
tiebreaker.
in the
Okay.
running.
Okay, Dave, yes, you can make it the tiebreaker.
Okay, here we go. Andrew, stand down.
Not legally, Dave, but
According to Yahoo Finance's senior columnist, Jana Heron, what is one cure for inflation? Is it more jobs? Is it immigration? Is it fewer taxes?
Ending the Federal Reserve. Hallelujah. That is the cure to inflation right there.
that's
D,
D.
immigration. She would say immigration.
I think so too. I'm going to go with immigration.
It is immigration.
Well,
It
that's-
is.
Well, so much for the tiebreaker.
If
No.
you read Joe's articles, Joe would definitely say immigration is the cure to inflation.
That's why I didn't answer it, because I
Yeah,
wrote the
I can
article.
only imagine Joe writing that. If you want to play more trivia news of the week, you're going to have to visit www.libertynation.com and tune in for some more Just for Fun with these guys who are almost awake at the end of the show. Thanks for playing, guys. Thanks for tuning in. That's That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform, YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble. We're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation has its own Roku channel, where you can see all of our TV productions. I'm your host, Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today for Free Thinking, Free Speech, LibertyNation.com.